Okay, so moving on. Now, if you look at the markets, right, it's one of those weeks whereby there's really nothing much to look at. Everything seems to be consolidating. I would say the only things that caught my eyes from last week is the pound pairs. Okay, like your pound cat, pound Swiss, most of the pound pairs, pound Aussie. Of course, what happened this Monday, whereby the UK Prime Minister reiterated the fact that Brexit will go ahead. Pound took a hit as well. Okay, but most of the markets are really very consolidating. So if you have any questions, any specific questions on theory price action, please feel free to ask me right now. I can cover a bit more theory this week simply because there's not much happening out there. But just to cover my usual theory, which is price action, and this is how I scan the markets. I identify it and try to group it within three phases, just to see whether the market is an uptrend, downtrend, or consolidation, so that it makes it easier for me to trade. So for example, if I identify that the market is a downtrend, let's say if I see a daily chart is a downtrend, a 4-hour chart is a downtrend, what I'll do is that I'll zoom into a lower time frame, like a 15-minute on a 1-hour chart, and I'll look for entry based on this. Okay, so I repeat. So if I see like a daily on a downtrend, a 4-hour on a downtrend, and basically on the 15-minute and 1-hour, I'm looking for confirmation that the shorter term time frame is going in line with the higher term time frame. And basically I plan my entry, my stop loss is based on a lower term time frame, and I try to write the trend for at least one within the same day or 2 days. Okay, so that's how I analyze the markets. I use a lot of price action. Now, I mean, price action is a bit discretionary sometimes, I agree. Because when you identify things like your higher lows and low highs, basically the swings. Okay, so when you identify the swings, let's say downtrend, a series of lower high and lower lows, right? Sometimes the swings identification, how you see it and how I see it can be very different, right? So it takes experience sometimes to identify whether this is a major swing or not. What I do is that I will combine support and resistance, I will combine pivot points, I will combine Fibonacci into trying to identify the swing level to see whether that's a key level that the markets are looking at. Okay, so that the main thing is just to label them whether they're high high or lower lows and things like that. And if it's very obvious, right, more often than not, is the analysis is spot on. Okay, so this is price action for you. Any questions? I see quite a number of new names here, so I just want to make sure I get off on the right footing so that you know what I'm talking about and you won't get confused once I start talking about live markets. Okay, so again, I always use the higher term time frames to set my bias. Okay, so for example, if I'm bullish, and then that's where I plan the trades. All right, I zoom down to lower term time frames and I calculate my risk to reward based on lower term time frames as well. Okay, but for those of you who are trading for some time, trading for a few years especially, and you still don't see results, maybe it's time to look at your psychology. For me, I only saw results when I managed my psychology matured. Okay, when I realized that trading is a lot of psychology. Yeah, the strategy is important, don't get me wrong, but psychology is a big part, especially managing your trades, not trading when your mind is not in the right place, knowing when to get out of the markets when you're wrong, knowing how to let your profit run. It sounds easy, and trust me, a lot of people can teach this, but when you are doing the actual trading, that's where it gets very challenging. But it can be very rewarding as well. Okay, so this is the theoretical part of things. Now, let's go to the market proper right now. I'll start with indices, and then I'll move on to FX and commodities after the second half of the webinar. Okay, so let's just go to the indices, the US side. This is the Dow Jones for you. Okay, so you can see that the Dow Jones have made a new high. Okay, I think a couple of webinars back is exactly looking very similar. Okay, so you can see that it's made a very key high. Okay, and we look at price action, right? This high, this is a high high. So this is called a high high. Now when it's a high high, it's very obvious that it's on the uptrend. And for those of you who are sharp enough, I think about 3 weeks ago, the market bounced off this higher low level at the 18,000 support. Okay, so this is a very nice trade if you took it up. Okay, and if you look at this pattern, right? You look at this pattern here, these circles I drew, it's very similar to, let me go back to the chart. Okay, it's very similar to this one, this second price action on the long side, this one here. Okay, so you see that it's very similar how it make two two similar highs, and then it break a higher high. You see that? Yeah. So you see such patterns all the time, and whenever I see this, now your buyers can tell you that the market is down. Fundamentally, you can say that this uptrend is not sustainable and things like that. But technical wise, it needs to match your fundamental bias, because the reason why I say that is because a lot of clients or a lot of traders that I speak to are always trying to catch the next big drop of the S&P or the Dow Jones. Okay, but don't be too eager, because right now the weekly chart is still on the uptrend. And if you just trade purely on technicals, okay, if you trade purely on technicals, you can see that this is still on the uptrend. Higher high, higher low, okay, and you'll be only looking too long. Okay, when we were here, 18,000. Now, the reason why I said this week is a bit of a messy week is because where we are right now is in the middle of no man's land. You see here? Yep. And if you look at the daily chart, right, you can see that there's a bit of consolidation forming like that. Okay, so when in times like that, as retail traders, try not to do anything, because especially when I see a daily chart trap like that, unless you're a really short-term trader and you want to trade in between this apex, which for me is not a high probability kind of trade. Okay, but basically it's better to wait for a breakout at the either levels, maybe around the 18,004, somewhere here. I would say 18,380 and 18,000 or so. Okay, it's just better to wait and see what it gives, because whether it breaks upwards or breaks downwards, I really don't know. Okay, I'd rather let the chart guide me. Okay, but what I do know is that this key level here, let me just move this a bit, sorry. This key level here, 18,000, is a key support. It's a key support. So some of you, I mean, the only trade plan that you can squeeze in on an intraday basis is not my kind of trading, but one of the trade plans that you can focus on this level here, around the 18,400 or so, because there are multiple level of resistance here. See here? You got the trend line resistance, you got the horizontal resistance, you got the whole number resistance. So if you're looking for a shorter term kind of trade, okay, the one trade plan is that if you see weakness here on lower term time frame, it might start turning around and might start coming down at least back to the 18,000 here. That's one trade plan for you. Okay, it's not really my cup of tea, because for me, I'm more intraday to swing. So I rather let the daily show itself first before trying to do anything. Okay, if you look at the 4-hour chart, alright, same story. You can see how consolidating it is. Okay, but no denying that this level around the 18,380 to 400 level is resistance. Okay, don't forget there was a trend line here. Okay, the key support is 18,000. So however way you want to look at it, right? I mean, for me, really, it's not even near the 18,004 yet. Okay, look at the 4-hour chart. So there's really no goal for this particular market, in my opinion. I mean, even if I want to plan a aggressive short, right, I need it to go closer to resistance at least around 18,003 or so. Right now, just in the no man's land. Okay, so that's the Dow Jones for you. Very similar to the other US markets. So just be a bit careful. It's really consolidating. Moving on to the DAX. Again, if you have any questions, please type into the question box so that I can answer it as soon as possible. Yeah. So moving on to the DAX, you can see the DAX weekly chart. So what I'll do is that I'll cover weekly, daily, and talk a bit about 4-hourly. Okay, if you guys want me to go shorter term time frame, feel free to ask as well. Because price action applies to all different time frames, just that the probability for lower term time frames are much lower. Okay, much lower than high term time frames. There's more noise. There's definitely more noise when you're trading the 5-minute chart, for example. Okay, so if we look at the weekly chart of the DAX, okay, we have been consolidating in some form of a triangle, something like that, and it seems to have broken out. So let me draw a line here. Okay, so on the weekly chart, it looks bullish. Okay, and again, if you look at the swings, right, this swing is a higher low, these two swings together, it's a high high. So again, if I go back to my PowerPoint slide, okay, doesn't it look like the third one on the left? See that? Okay, so it is on the uptrend. And again, when it bounced to the support was around 10,002 or so. not surprising that the market reacted from there. Okay, based on the weekly chart. Now, the question right now is that we are pretty near the previous high, which is around the 10,700 level. So to get in along right now, not the best idea because we're too close to this resistance level. Okay, around the 10,700 or so. But on the weekly chart, it's definitely still bullish. I just need to break the previous high at about 10,700. So break the previous high, and then I will continue the uptrend. All right. If you go to the daily chart, okay, you can go to daily chart. You can see that the market is consolidating somewhat like that. Okay, something like this channel. So nothing much to do right now. I want it to at least break the 10,700 level first before I'm interested in going on the long side. If not, I'm going to be a spectator on the DAX as well. Okay, because the daily chart can see this consolidating. Weekly chart looks a bit bullish, but it's just too close to the previous resistance here. Okay, so not that compelling to, I mean, it looks a bit like a, let me just go back to daily. Okay, from here it looks a bit like a bullish flag. Okay, so bullish flag, if you study chart pattern, is a bullish continuation pattern. But for a bullish flag breakout again, it needs to break this high. That's why I say it needs to break, for me, it needs to break 10,700 clearly first. Then I'm keen to join in on the uptrend. Alright, so that's daily chart. If you look at the 4-hour chart for the DAX, very, very messy. Okay, so when I see a messy chart like that, whereby there's no particular direction, crisscrossing of moving averages, I would use a high-term time frame as a reference point. And the high-term time frame is telling me that it might be a potential bullish flag scenario. Okay, so yeah, this is the DAX. Next one, let me talk about, let's see, let's talk about FTSE. FTSE is gaining quite, any of you trade FTSE here? I don't particularly like the FTSE because it's very volatile. The FTSE is gaining for all the Brexit talk again. Yeah? So, but you see, if you look at the weekly chart, right? Okay, you can see that definitely bullish. Alright, again, based on price action. This is the first high low, and this is a high high. This is a high low, and now another high high. Okay, so it's definitely bullish to the upside. The only thing is that we are at this resistance level. So to buy now would definitely not be a good idea. Okay, and that might be a bit of potential negative divergence if you compare to MACD as well. Okay, so to buy now might not be a good idea. Okay, but if you go to a daily chart, same thing, bullish as well. So the trade plan for the FTSE is this. It looks bullish, okay, but right now I need at least a pullback because this level where we are now is definitely resistance. Alright, if you look at the weekly chart, it's definitely resistance. Look at that. The previous high was around April, May 2015. Right now we're testing a level. The high was around 7,100 level. Right now we're testing there. Okay, so weekly is bullish, daily is bullish, it's just that it's at resistance. So one trade plan that you can look out for is that if you go down to a 4-hour chart, look at how nice bullish it is. Okay, what you want to do is to find some form of pullback before taking up again. Whether it can break new high, I don't know. Okay, but there should be one pullback and there should be another attempt back to the previous high at least before the market decides whether they want to break a new high or it wants to fall further. Okay, right now everything looks good, upside convergence. The moving average though is a bit far away from the upside, so I anticipate some form of pullback. Okay, and let's see whether we can make a new high now. The question is pullback to where? Now, for such markets, sometimes it can be quite tricky because there's no reference point because the market is so bullish, right? Okay, so what I tend to do is that I tend to look out for whole numbers and consolidation support levels. Let me just take away the lines here. Okay, so this level is a possible level that might go to 7050. Okay, there's really, if I zoom out a bit, there's really nothing to look at. There's no reference point to tell me where support. Okay, so that's where you can use things like Fibonacci, you can use things like pivot points to try to give you some kind of idea on where it might go to. Okay, so the 7050 is somewhere around 38.2% or so. So what I tend to do is let it retrace, and then once it comes to a level of support around the 7050 area, go to lower term time frame, see whether the price action is starting to move to the upside, and your first target will be the previous high somewhere here. Okay, but at this point in time, when you are seeing the market turn around to the downside, be quickly to at least move your stop to break even, or maybe scale out some profits. Because if the uptrend, if the long trade is going to fail, this is the highest possible level that it will fail from. So that's the FTSE looking very bullish right now. Definitely looks more bullish than your S&P or Dow Jones. All right. Let's go to Hang Seng right now. Okay, Hang Seng daily chart. Again, any questions, please shout out. If not, I feel like I'm talking to myself. Okay, so this is a weekly chart. Definitely bullish on Hang Seng. Again, consolidating. Looks like, I mean, if you look at the, very clearly, look at the individual candles, right? You can see that various pin bars as it hit the resistance around the 24,000 or so. Okay, and you can see that the momentum is waning, slightly waning a bit in terms of making new highs. So the weekly chart, yes, it's still an uptrend, very bullish surge, no pullbacks yet. But if you look at the daily chart, right, you can see that it's consolidating in a nice wedge or triangle, or whatever you want to call it. But basically it's consolidating something like that. Okay, so it looks quite similar to Dow Jones. My take is that better to let it wait for it to break out to see what happens. Okay, to see what happens. Now, if you look at the MACD, right, you can see that it's forming lower lows, but if you look at the swings, it's making higher lows. So this is actually a hidden bullish divergence. Okay, bullish divergence. All right, but you want to at least let it break this key resistance level here first. See, every time when the markets try to push above, there's a lot of sellers around here, push it back down, and you notice that the candles around here is unable to close above the 24,000 level. Okay, so even if bullish, let it close convincingly above 24,000 and then try to take it up again. Okay, so this is a daily chart. Let's go to the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart telling the same thing, just consolidating. Okay, so this is very similar to Dow Jones. It's a bit of a waiting game. Just be a bit patient. Okay, but try not to anticipate and assume what the market will do before it happens. When it comes to price action trading, it's very simple actually. It's just simply following price like a dog as in D-O-G. Okay, but more often than not, our mind will come into the play and we'll try to be smarter than we think we are, or we'll try to be smarter for our own good. And that's the problem, okay, because we tend to assume, and then when the thing doesn't happen, and then we lose some money, we get affected, we get distressed, because our prediction didn't come true, and then we start doing funny things on trading. Okay, so price action, let the markets come to you, plan your trade. The markets will either come to you or it will not. It's as simple as that. I know the frustrating thing is that sometimes when you plan the trade to perfection, and when I say to perfection, whereby the direction is spot on, and sometimes the market comes to you, but it doesn't go to your exact area before it launches off to your anticipated direction. Now that can be very, very frustrating. Trust me, for me, my weakness is always when that happens because I try to chase markets. Okay, so it's just part of the game, no? It's just part of the game of letting go and just being patient. All right, there's always setups in the markets. You just got to be patient. Yeah. So for Hang Seng as well, it's another waiting game. Just look out for the 24,000 level, the daily chart. Okay, just draw this little wedge formation here and just wait for breakouts either side to try to follow the trend. Alright, technical wise says that it still looks bullish based on the bullish divergence. Yep. What else? You guys got any particular index that you want me to cover? Okay, I'm going to talk a bit on the Singapore blue chip, yeah. Ziping, I just did the DAX actually, Ziping. Let me just do a more quick one. Okay, the DAX, I was just saying that. Okay, the DAX, I was saying, just a quick one for your benefit. So on the weekly chart, right, the DAX, I'm saying that it has broken out nicely from this little consolidation. Key support is around the 10,200. Right now, though, we are in a bit of a no man's land unless we break the key resistance around 10,006, 10,007, then I'm keen to continue the upside. So even though the weeklies are uptrend, right, I just be a bit careful, especially now that the daily chart is a bit consolidating. Okay, but this might be a potential bullish flag, and the bullish flag is a continuation pattern to the upside. So just pay attention to this resistance levels around 10,006, 10,007 before we can look for entries to take it up again. Okay, Ziping? Okay, so that's the DAX now. Now let's go to the Singapore blue chip. Okay, so if you look at the Singapore blue chip, very similar story to some of the other indices. It's just consolidating. That's the way the market is this week. That's why I was like, oh, there's really nothing, no compelling trade setup to look out for. But it's just consolidating. If you zoom out a bit, just for an analysis sake, let me just zoom out to the monthly chart. Okay, so this is a very, very long-term chart. Okay, but I can see that the monthly chart is actually the whole market is consolidating. If you go to weekly chart, alright, it's consolidating in a triangle as well. Okay, so you just got to be careful on how not to get caught inside any of this consolidation pattern. Daily chart, same thing. You can just draw the similar triangle and just wait. Okay, so when it comes to such chart, look at the daily how mixed it is because it's trapped within that triangle on the weekly chart. So when it comes to such markets, right, again, just be patient. Same thing for the Hang Seng, same thing for Dow Jones. There's a lot of consolidation in the market at the moment. Just be patient, wait for breakouts, wait for the markets to come to you. Okay, any other indices that you want me to cover? If not, I'll move on to FX. Okay, if there's no other indices, let me take a 10-second pause and then I'll talk about FX. Oh, ASX, sorry. That was last, I just saw that last minute. Okay, let me just go back to the markets. This ASX, yeah? Let's have a look at ASX, okay. Let's go to the weekly chart right now. This is Australia index. Now, the ASX to me is really a mixed bag. If you look at the weekly chart, yes, it's on the uptrend. If you look at the high lows here, okay, so it's a higher, you see it's a higher highs, higher high. So it is on uptrend. Okay. Now the key resistance that we are looking at, okay, is somewhere around this 5,500 level. Okay, and we are there right now. Now the way that it retraced back to the previous swing low, right? My analysis is more that it will start consolidating somewhere here. Something like that. Because 5,500 for me around this area is quite key. Okay, but right now we are a bit, again, even if you are bullish, right, there's no support level right here. It's more of a resistance. So the only thing you can do is to wait for it to break a new high above 5,600. If not, just better wait because it might consolidate back down. Okay, because for me this weekly chart this is uptrend but looks like it's going to enter a period of consolidation soon. Okay, let's go to the daily chart. Okay, daily chart. I mean, when the market rebounds like that, I'm just be a bit careful. Okay, so just be careful on 5,005. There's a lot of resistance here. Okay, the only thing I look out for is weakness around the 5,005 and then we might fall to certain level of support. But the whole market is a bit more consolidating, so I'm not that keen on the ASX. Looking at the 4-hour chart, it probably looks more bullish on 4-hour chart. Okay, it's just that again, be very mindful of the 5,500 level. Okay, if you're looking for intraday kind of setup, you look for weakness near the 5,500 and try to take it down, maybe back to previous support 5,004 or so. Okay, but that's a counter trend trade and more for intraday kind of basis, so just be careful. But 5,500 is definitely key for resistance. My preference is to let it break and then decide what happens in terms of the 5,500 level. Okay, because it is an uptrend. Okay, just that it's a resistance. So for me, when it's an uptrend, I want to look for support to long, not look for resistance. Right now it's a resistance, so I got to be patient. Okay, some of you might ask, why do you short since a resistance? Now, shorting a resistance is not a strategy. Okay, I prefer to follow the trend. That's the way I trade. That's how comfortable I am. Okay, I tried trading counter trend a couple of times this few months and it just felt so uncomfortable. And when it feels uncomfortable, it might not be the kind of trade that you should be taking. Whether it can make money, yes, but whether it suits your personality, whether it's a strategy that you're used to, that's definitely more important. Okay, so that's Australia index for you. All right, Tui. Thanks for the questions. Okay, I'm gonna move on to FX right now. Take a 10-second pause.